Want to pop this up on your screen? This is a live look over the airport in Miami. A lot of people there, but honestly, on a usual day, that place is pretty packed. Now, Transportation Secretary Sean Duffy has issued a warning. He says if the government shutdown continues, he could force airlines to cut up to 20% of their flights. The Federal Aviation Administration yesterday instructed airlines to cut 4% of flights, and that happening at 40 major airports because of the staffing shortages. Those cuts expected to rise to 10% by next Friday. Over the record-long shutdown, 13,000 air traffic controllers and about 50,000 security screeners have been forced to work without pay, and that's led to an increase in employees not showing up for work. Many air traffic controllers learned just days ago that, again, they would receive no pay for a second pay period. That'll be next week. Sean Duffy speaking with Fox News about all of that, and here is a quick clip.
We are going to implement a 10% reduction in flights over the course of the next week. And again, that becomes, that is from the data that we see from our safety team at the FAA. We see additional triggers or stats that are going in the wrong direction. And we want to make sure we take out that pressure from the system and, again, make sure the airspace is safe as Americans travel through it. So, yes, you're going to see more cancellations. We're still going to watch the staffing triggers. What that means is air traffic controllers are calling in sick. That happens in different parts of the country. As that happens, you'll also see additional delays throughout the American airspace. Air traffic controllers aren't being paid, and they're being forced to take secondary jobs. Again, whether it's waiting tables or driving Uber, instead of coming to towers and doing their day jobs because they're paying for the necessities of their family, food, gas, rent or mortgages. And let's end the shutdown and let's let the Congress debate their issues, but let's not hold the American people hostage and air travelers hostage by the shutdown that's going on to a historic level right now.
All right, and we want to hear from you. Have you experienced flight delays or cancellations recently? And by that, we mean over the past several days, maybe last several weeks here. If you do want to cast your vote and have your voice heard, just scan that QR code top right-hand side of your screen or go to livenowfox.com/connect. We'll be checking on that over the next several hours and bring you those results as they do update live here on your screen. But again, your options, yes or no. Have you experienced flight delays or cancellations recently? Just grab your phone and scan that QR code top right-hand side of your screen or go to livenowfox.com/connect. Well, right now, I do want to talk more about all of this here and what we can expect if the shutdown does continue. Let's bring in Daniel Bubb, former airline pilot and professor at the University of Nevada, Las Vegas. And Daniel, I told you I would say the name of the state wrong, and it appears that I just did that. Thank you so much for taking the time to be here with us.
You're welcome. Thank you for having me.
Of course. And first off, I do want to ask you overall here what a 4%, a 10%, and potentially a 20% flight reduction looks like at airports nationwide.
Yeah, it's significant. And we're going to see significant delays. We're going to see flight cancellations. And it's adding an additional layer of stress onto the traveling public. Some people are already kind of nervous flyers, particularly people who don't fly very frequently. And especially now that we're getting into the holiday season, could be a source of major concern for everybody. And of course, as you pointed out, Josh, the air traffic controllers, the TSA agents who are not getting a paycheck, who are taking secondary jobs. And, you know, it's just a no-win situation for anybody. Everybody loses on this. And I agree with Secretary Duffy. We need to end the shutdown as soon as possible so that, you know, people don't have to stress over this and air traffic controllers and TSA agents don't have to stress over not getting a paycheck.
And you're looking once again at the live results coming in. It's about 50-50 as far as whether or not you've seen delays or cancellations. You can still scan that QR code top right-hand side of your screen. Have flight reductions of this scale, this magnitude occurred before when you're talking about so many big airports?
I haven't personally seen anything of this scale pertaining to a shutdown. And the people who are going to be impacted the most as far as air travel goes are smaller regional airports because they don't have as many flights. the larger hub airports have many flights, and so they may be able to weather this. They'll certainly take a hit, but particularly the smaller airports are going to be the ones impacted the most by this.
How quickly can these delays, these cancellations, kind of make their way through the network and cause even more cancellations and delays? Because you imagine it's kind of like, I guess, a domino effect where one domino falls and then the rest of them do.
It's like throwing a stone in a water and you see the ripples kind of go out. That's what happens with air travel because we're so connected. One delay at a major airport like Chicago O'Hare, Atlanta Hartsfield can have a ripple effect for everybody nationwide and even the world. So it can happen very quickly.
What are some of the primary risks when you're talking about flight safety, efficiency, all of that, when you do have operations that are limited? And also, you talk about these workers who are not being paid.
Right. Safety obviously is paramount. We want everybody to be able to travel safely. We want our flight crews to be able to travel safely. We don't want our air traffic controllers to be overworked for the ones who are working 6-day weeks, working overtime. Fatigue begins to set in, and that's a major concern. So that's why the government has what they call these triggers, where they're trying to minimize the fatigue, where they're really trying to ensure that the public can travel safely by air.
What happens if the shutdown were to end here in the coming hours? Because the Senate has said that they could potentially vote tomorrow once again in the hopes of passing something and getting this along. If the shutdown were to end now, does that change anything? Do we feel the impacts on air travel immediately? Do things come back to normal, or does it kind of take a while?
It takes a little while for everything to come back to normal. Certainly for the airlines, they'll be able to bring back those flights that they've been having to cancel. That takes a little bit of time. But I think particularly for the TSA agents and the air traffic controllers, it's still going to take weeks for them to get their paychecks, any back pay that they were due. And so to answer your question, the whole process is going to take a little while. So it would be nice if we could end the shutdown so that we can get things back to normal. But it's going to be a number of days, perhaps even weeks, before we actually see it again.
What do passengers maybe need to do differently as all of this is ongoing? Because we always hear from airport officials, arrive at least 2 hours early, check your flight before you head out. Is there anything else that those passengers need to do to minimize travel disruption?
Sure, there are a number of things they can do. First, try to catch the early morning flights. You have less of a likelihood of having your flight canceled or delayed. Also, airlines allow passengers now to check the seat map. So if you look at the seat map on a plane and it's full, those planes are going to fly. If they're half full, quarter full, then there's a fairly decent chance they'll be canceled. Also, as Barry Biffle, who's the CEO of Frontier Airlines, suggested, you might buy a second plane ticket as a backup just in case your first ticket doesn't work out. So those are the things I would recommend. And airlines are trying to be proactive about this. They're trying to notify people. They're waiving change fees. People have the opportunity to get a full refund if they'd like. So there are a number of things that travelers can do. But overall, and I know it's really, really difficult, particularly when it's a stressful time, when it's really busy. But if everybody can just really be patient, that's really what it's going to take, is just being patient, try to work with the airlines, try to just kind of go with the flow as best you can. That would be my recommendation.
And you're taking a live look here at some of the airports. We have them coast to coast. We have LAX there on the top left-hand side of your screen. Bottom left is Nashville International Airport. Top right, that is over in Seattle. And bottom right, that's in St. Louis. So what I wanted to ask you is, we know that for the most part, and this is something that people will argue, but Atlanta seems to have the busiest airport. You have the airports in New York as well. Are there specific airports that could potentially be impacted more than others?
Sure. You're probably going to see larger airports like Atlanta, like JFK, like LAX, see numerous delays and cancellations. But again, because those are hub airports, because they're so big, they can weather those. But it's really the smaller regional airports where maybe you only have a few flights a day. Those are the ones that are going to be impacted the most. Those are the air travelers that are going to be impacted the most. So, and what airlines also do is they're going to look at the routes that are the busiest and that are the most profitable. They'll certainly fly those. The ones that are not, probably either delay or cancel those flights.
I'm actually thinking about your tips as I prepare to fly because checking that seat map is a really good idea to see if the flight's full, but also traveling early because so many people will say, I don't want to wake up early. I'd rather wake up later on in the day. But hey, if that's the best way to go about it, I'm sure a lot of people will follow that there. And Daniel, Bub, thank you so much for taking the time to join us. This is a story, of course, that is going nowhere anytime soon. So we're going to continue to check in with you and other experts here. Anything we missed, anything you want to make sure to add here before I let you go?
No, thanks again for having me. It's a real pleasure being with you. And I think just to the public, my heart's with them. Like I said, I know it's really hard, but if people can be patient, that's really what it's going to take. I know there are going to be delays. I know it's going to be hard, but if you can work with the airlines, they're trying to be proactive about this, which is good. And so I think if everybody can just kind of be patient, that's the best thing. But, some of the tips I recommended, I would certainly encourage your viewers to strongly consider those.
For sure. Thank you again for taking the time to be here. We definitely appreciate your time.
My pleasure, Josh. Have a great weekend.
You too. And I do want to pop this up on your screen because overall it's been about 50-50 here. We're asking you the question, have you experienced flight delays or cancellations recently? And of course, recently meaning maybe the last few days or weeks here. As of right now, about 45% of you say yes and 55% say no. If you do want to cast your vote and have your voice heard, just scan that QR code top right-hand side of your screen or go to livenowfox.com/connect. We will continue to cover this and, of course, bring you the updates on the situation in general, but also a look at the delays and cancellations as they continue.